Welcome everyone, I'm Jeff Darrington, the Director of Technical Marketing, and today we'll be covering a zero to logs with Graylog. This webinar, we are going to cover off a few things. We're going to talk about installing Graylog. We've picked the installation to be Docker. It's quick and easy, and there's some advantages for lab setups or testing setups. We will learn some additional Docker commands so you can do some neat things inside of a containerized environment, and we'll ingest a Syslog source, and we're going to route that source to a dedicated stream and index. As far as supported software, as of right now, the Graylog that we'll be installing is version 7.1.8. We do support MongoDB release up to 8.2. Graylog Data Node 7.1.8 is in parallel with Graylog if you're choosing to install Graylog Data Node as your search and your storage, or you can install OpenSearch. If you install OpenSearch, you can't go any higher than version 2.19.5. The compatibility matrix, you can go to our documentation, and to get the software, you can go to graylog.org/downloads. But at this time, I'd like to go over quickly just the actual compatibility matrix really quickly. So you'll notice some older versions of Graylog and supported versions and the parallel versions of MongoDB versions with those. You want to make sure that you're following the rules on the compatibility versions in relation to Graylog. If you're choosing to install Graylog on Ubuntu or directly on the OS, then these are the packages that are supported: Debian 12, Ubuntu 22.04 and 24.04, as well as Red Hat 8.9 and SUSE 15. If you choose to install with the different versions of OpenSearch, it's key to look at what versions you have and what you're installing with. You'll notice we've got now compatibility of OpenSearch version 2.19.5 all the way back to Graylog 6.2. So if you're doing a new installation, obviously you'd want to go up to the latest version we support. If you want to move up to a newer version of OpenSearch, then you do have to make some incremental upgrades along the way. Okay, let's go. What we're going to get into next is the Docker Compose file. So you'll notice here we have the Docker Compose file on GitHub. As we go through the file, you'll notice there's some notes in the file. We have the MongoDB version 7. We're scrolling through and you're going to see some notes. First things first, when you run Data Node initially, when you first compile and run Docker Compose, the complete instance is not up and running. There is a Preflight UI that you need to do to set up the Data Node or OpenSearch. And this is to set the Data Node certificate and secure it and bring it up. Before you get started, you always have to check the VM max map account. This is important to know that when you want to run Graylog with multiple containers that you've got to run the services, you do have to have a given size of this map count. So you have to check that before you get started. Going down Data Node, we are setting the variable because the image is going to be controlled and version controlled in the env file. We'll go through that in just a minute. The additional configurations you'll have here with the passwords and secret will be the same. That'll be noted inside of the env file. You notice we have some loopback addresses in the ports for the data node. We'll remove those if you want to expose them externally. Rolling down, you'll see Graylog and you'll see the version. We're controlling that via the env file, so there's an actual string. I'll have to set the password secret and root password. I've opened up all the ports that I want to show up in the external interface on Graylog in the lab environment because I want to send different logs, and you'll notice the different networks, and we're set in bridge mode. So to bring this up, what you need to do to double check the map count is you cat a particular file. This file is the noted here, procsys VM max map count. It's already set. If you wanted to set it and set it permanently, this is the command that you would run to set it permanently in that OS that you're working on. So you would echo the vm.max map count to the value, and then you would pipe it to the syscontrol conf and execute it. I've already got it set, so I don't need to do that. Now what we'll do is we will look at setting up the env file and the Docker file. So you've downloaded the Docker file, and I'll show you my Docker file. It's basically the same. The only thing I've done is the Docker Compose that I built, I have set up the ports to be exposed. And you'll see them there where I've taken out the loopback. I've left that loopback in the custom ports. I'm not using those. And if we go in and we check the env file, you'll notice I have the password secret and the root password set, and I've set the image versions that we want to set. So if you were to do this, then what you will do is in Graylog, you'll notice these commands. The first one to set your password secret, if you copy that and you paste it in here, you can make note of that, grab it, pull it off to the side in a notepad file. There's a really nice way that we've done in the background here to set your password that you want to have in Graylog. So if you copy this and you bring up your Graylog, it will prompt you. I've used a particular password and it doesn't matter. It's my local instance and it will dump the hashed password. So grab that, stick it to the side, and that's where you're going to put those in the env files. So next up, we are going to start the Docker container because you'll notice I have my webinar-compose YAML file. And what we're going to do is use Docker compose with a named command to name the file. And that will download all of the images. Now, the reason why I did this is I have multiple versions of Graylog running on this same machine. This machine's like a Ubuntu box. It might have 32 gigs of RAM, but if I'm running the current GA version like I'm downloading right now, I have the option of testing a beta version. So if I'm doing some lab work and I want to have a peek at the lab version, you can create a new folder. I'd call it, say, Graylog test or Graylog beta. Drop in the env file and the configuration file. Bring down your other Docker instance. Bring this one up and view Graylog in this capacity in the new one. So it's really handy. It's an easy way to have a look at Graylog without interrupting your current install. If you're on an OS-based install, it's not as easy unless you're running VMs and you can copy a VM and spin it up. So if you want to do some testing really quick, Docker is a great way to do it. So we'll note that a Docker space PS will tell us that we're up and running. We need to look at that Preflight UI because it's going to give us a Graylog banner with a password. So we're going to type Docker logs and the ID of the container. And lo and behold, you'll see it right here. This is the username and password for Graylog. So I'm going to keep this as the Preflight. Now, when you go into Graylog and you refresh the connection, okay, and now we will get to the Preflight UI, and you'll notice with logging in that password, we've got now the new UI. So this is where we're going to start up Graylog. You'll notice you can upload your own certificate to secure the individual data node instance. I'm going to create my own self-assigned certificate. So if I create that, it will run through and ask you how many days. This is probably a little large, but I'm going to say 365, create the policy. Now we'll tell it to provision and continue. You'll notice on the left-hand side at the top, there's a little banner here with a red banner for the data node. As it's pulling and doing the work in behind the scenes to get things done, you're going to notice these checkboxes are going to go green as it's finished the process of implementing across the data node. So it takes not very long to do it. You'll see in just a second. Be patient. If you want to restart this, say you want to assign your own certificate, instead of doing that, you can hit restart. You'll notice all of these are set and it's green, and we can click resume startup. Now what will happen is everything will restart so that it will load up and secure everything. And you'll see in just a quick moment here how you'll get to the login page, and the login will be exactly what you set in the configuration. So I have that here, and you log in and we are here. Now you will get a pop-up regarding the anonymous data usage. If you want to allow errors and whatnot to be sent to Graylog, you can enable that or change it in the config. It's in the docs if you want to. I'm just going to enable it. And now you have Graylog running with Docker Compose. And next up, we're going to look at ingesting some logs and setting up an input. Okay, next, let's get a Syslog source coming into Graylog. So first thing we need to do is, you'll notice we have an alert here because we have no running inputs in Graylog. So what we'll do is go into inputs, and I am going to select a TCP Syslog input, create the title and bind address. And you'll notice from the ports list in our Docker compose file, this is what we'll have is 5140 for the port. And one thing we can do is obviously we can set security on the port. For here today, I won't do this, but at the bottom, one thing I will do is I will set the time zone in the individual config, and I'll set that to America, Toronto. I am in Canada, and I'll launch the input. Now, as soon as you launch an input, you now have a wizard that pops up in Graylog. If you haven't seen it, allows you to create a stream and automatically create a pipeline connected to the stream and create an index. So we're going to go through this because I want these logs to route to their own index and route to their own stream. So they're not going to the default index, filling up the default index. So we'll create a stream and we will call this printer log stream. And the description will just be a stream for printer logs. And we'll remove it from the default stream in this configuration. Down below, you'll see we have the default index set. We're going to create a new index set. And I'm going to use a custom template. I'm going to select the default template. And we'll name this. Let printer data. And down below here, we'll leave this storage days. It'll age them out at these days for the max stage in storage in the minimum of 30. And we will create the index set. Oops, I need to put a index for printer logs. Put a description in there. We'll create it. You'll notice printer data index has been created. So now we can go back to the inputs, and in the configuration, once you've created this new index, it will populate here. We'll connect the stream to this index. Hit next, and we will start the input. And you'll notice in the background, we've created some additional things in Graylog in this process. And you can now view a screen for the input diagnostics. We don't have data coming in yet, so we won't do this, but this is for the individual Syslog TCP. So I picked a really simple source, and I am going to this printer, and I want to send Syslog inputs to Graylog, and I will change the port and hit apply. I want to get all the logs on my Wi-Fi connections and all the things that are going on with my printer. And you'll notice if we go back here under Graylog search, starting to get some logs. It's also being routed to the printer logs stream. So if we go into streams, you'll notice we have a printer log stream. We have a stream rule to move these into the stream. Now let's look at custom routing or setting up routing within streams. Let's go through what we created already inside of Graylog. So you'll notice inside of pipelines, when we created the input, created the stream and index, it created a default routing rule. So under the default individual pipeline, you'll notice this rule was created. This is routing the data directly from the input to the stream directly. That means that anything coming into this input will go straight to that actual stream. These individual logs could be syslogs from other sources, so you're not going to want to commingle those in that particular stream. So what I'm going to do is show you, if you create a new pipeline, I'm going to call it a new routing pipeline. I've created the new pipeline, and what I'm going to do is edit the connection, and I'm going to connect it to the default stream, which is the same location where it currently is. I've connected it, and then what I want to do is add a new stage. I'm going to give myself a bit of a buffer here. I'm going to have it stage 10, and I've created a rule called route printer logs by source IP. So I will add that stage in rule, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I route the actual log into the stream by looking at the message. So what I've done is, if the field has a source field and the source results of the field is this IP address, which is technically the IP address of the printer, then also set a custom field called parsed with a value of custom router. This can be anything you want, but this will indicate how the log is arriving in the stream because it will create a specific field to indicate that. So then I've told it to route to stream, the printer log stream, and remove from the default stream. So if I update those rules and we have now gone to the pipelines, there's a parallel pipeline that's in use that's connected to the same individual pipeline rule. So if we go to search, you'll notice some of the logs coming in here, and here's a Wi-Fi connection to a given Wi-Fi access point. And you'll notice that the message is now still going to printer log stream, but it's going to the appropriate routing rule that I just created because it added the field custom router. So we can validate this by now going back, and I would suggest copying this rule, but under pipelines, under the default routing, I'm going to remove this rule. And you should still see messages coming into Graylog, and you'll see that the custom parsed router is still in the field. This is a new message that came in. We can validate this by going back in the printer and logging in. I'm going to bounce the configuration for Syslog, and I'll enable it one more time. And we'll go back in and we'll get a bunch of more new individual logs, and you'll notice parsed custom router is still in the field. So by default, when you use the wizard, you do need to understand that it will route by individual input directly to the stream. You can go in and build additional stream rules or other types of rules like pipeline rules. I chose to build a pipeline rule connected to the default location so we could route it to the appropriate stream. So that's how you can route your messages. Messages can be routed on a variety of fields and results of a field. I chose the IP address in this case for a very simple example as how you would route them. And that's how we're doing this with this particular example. Okay, so let's search some of this data. You'll notice I've got a bunch of logs here, and we have a variety of different types of logs. Obviously, it's just in the message field. So I'm going to show you some of the power of Graylog where you can actually query messages within a message. So if we wanted to look up anything to do with a message that had the term WLAN in it, you literally could just search on that, and it will populate anything to do with the WLAN information. Now, we did notice earlier that it does scan the wireless network quite frequently, and you'll notice if you look at the timestamps, we're going to go back to all of the logs, and we'll look to when it joins the wireless access point. So here's a wireless access point. So what I'll do is I'm just going to search this term by itself. I will put it in open brackets, and you'll notice very quickly it will grab all of the logs that have that located in the message field. Now, looking at this, you'll notice how it's polling or doing something with the Wi-Fi approximately every 5 minutes. So looking at the timestamps of these messages, the actual Wi-Fi in this printer is constantly going up and down or re-authenticating. So you can get a good understanding of how this operates within the log management and how the printer is operating on the network. If we look at some additional things, there are some additional messages here related to DHCP server address management being called. So you could search that term, and we can put that in, and you'll notice if we put that in quotes, how often that will come up in the logs, and you'll see it will sort those messages accordingly. Now, this particular source is a very simple source. You'll notice it doesn't list the facility number and levels with the product. So you're just shown the actual message itself for the actual individual printer. So it's a limited source, but it is a source I wanted to show everyone so that you could see how easy it is to search inside of Graylog with messages. Now, you would typically take this message and parse them out and get them into fields so you could aggregate them, but there are many other sources you can enjoy within Graylog, and I would advise to give it a try.